Yes, the Standard a bit kind with its words. IEBC finally put on the chopping board, but you know what happens on the chopping board. It's still the enemy. Yes, so it's very interesting, and I had an opportunity to speak to one of the commissioners who resigned yesterday, and my main question was, did she know that her actions together with those of her colleagues would result in this kind of paralysis at the IEBC? If yes, was this a planned, was it planned, was it beyond the IEBC? Because they say that this was a personal decision, that each of the three commissioners took a personal decision. They went, reflected upon it, and came and said, yes, I've decided to. Do you believe there's something like that, Dunstan, that they actually sat down and thought, yeah, it's a personal decision?
Fred, my take is that we need to evaluate the selection panel of people who are appointed to do interviews for public officers. The problem is not with the commissioners. The problem is with the panel. The
one that hired them.
The one that hires. And it's not only for the IEBC. Very many public institutions, the panel always gets it wrong. When you look at the 7 commissioners, does anybody inspire you? Does anybody show any form of leadership? So in my own view, we were expecting so much from mediocrity. The commissioners had no capacity to inspire the nation towards a united nation, towards an election that could not be contested. That said, you look at the interview that you are saying you did. Somebody is telling you today that inside that kitchen called the IEBC, it was a disaster. Is it yesterday she knew? Whereas, to the public's knowledge, the public, from the day these people were being interviewed, already people had said, these guys cannot deliver.
Maybe it's not a she, maybe a he.
Well, I don't know who it was, but whoever that commissioner was. So in my own view, I think that we have underrated the intelligence of Kenyans. Kenyans are able to say that is mediocrity, that is innocently unable to deliver results. Now that these people are going, like for example, I was here the other day in the opinion court and I advised them that do not wait, just resign. Already 3 listened to the opinion court. The remaining 3 are listening to us, Fred, today. They will tender their resignation today.
Okay. Was this a quickest way of getting rid of IEBC? Just have 3 commissioners resign?
I think, from where I see it, I think the way the script for constitution of IEBC was such that it would end up the way it has ended up. Because, first of all, as my colleague says, from the recruitment stage, we know that the worst were picked because number 1, 2, 3 were in the interview were ignored, so that we get a weak commission. I want to give you as an example. You know, this is a very serious commission, independent electoral commission that is supposed to supervise elections. Then you get people like this vice chair lady. Personally, I'd never heard about her. You know, we did not know her credentials. Where did she come from? Then you expect these people to perform. I think the narrative was that you get a weak commission, and then you have a powerful CEO who basically is the one running the show. And that is why you remember when we were fighting for this IEBC, these commissioners to go, and we were asking the CEO to resign after the bungled 8th August elections. These same commissioners were always siding with the CEO, because the CEO is actually the one who was running the show.
And that's the most.
And that's why when the chairman came out strongly and fired the CEO, then now you find these guys have to leave. So I think we always say that this commission was not independent; it was being run from outside. There was somebody seated somewhere who is actually calling the shots, and I think the time had come for this commission to go. And 2, we must look at what's happening in the commission. Also, we must relate it to the political environment right now, and I think it has some relationship with what we have now, what we have right now, where we have the unity of purpose between the opposition and
there's also a lot of unity in
so I think
lack of sympathy for IEBC commissioners.
This same external hand is actually the hand that actually is now telling the the commissioners that now you have to exit because we want to cripple
because and I'll put this to you because
that are going on right now.
Last year when there was no handshake and NASA was on one side and Jubilee on the other side, even the cliques within IEBC were accused of being divided along those lines.
Yes, yes, yes.
But it appears that right now, even the political groupings are united in their lack of sympathy for the IEBC. Right now, you have no sympathy for any clique.
No.
The one that supported NASA back then.
No, we are not united. We have always maintained that we want an independent and we want reforms, electoral reforms. That one, we are not united. What we are now seeing is that the other wing, the wing that has been supporting IEBC, is what they are trying to do. They are trying to use this occasion to be seen to be with us, but we are not actually united because they still do not think that we need to have a reformed IEBC. That is one. Two, the other issue is that the IEBC, the commissioners that now remain, are not reform-minded. The reform-minded commissioner left. The only commissioner who was interested in, I think recruited by mistake. I think Akombe was recruited by mistake. The recruiters thought that maybe he was going to be complacent and was going to be bought. But because she did not, and then she had to leave because she could not work in this environment. The environment has always been positioned and weak. But my thinking is that we need to look at this thing in respect to the political situation right now. There's some people who are not happy with this unity of purpose between Raila and Uhuru. And I think they are trying to undermine it by way of dissolving IEBC so that the political conversations will commence about. So
you're saying
a referendum.
Whatever is happening at the IEBC, someone is behind it, and this
someone is behind,
not happy with the handshake.
Someone is behind it, but they're also playing into our hands. Because we are, this is what we always wanted.
Okay.
We wanted this IEBC to leave so that we can have a reformed IEBC.
Politicians are very interesting, but let me get one from this lawyer. There's a lawyer, Donald Biki Korir, your colleague. In normal circumstances, when a president or leader resigns, his cabinet resigns in solidarity. But IEBC commissioners, led by the vice chair, have changed the rules. They are now resigning because their employee, Ezra Chiloba, has been suspended, and he says this is taking self-disrespect to a new law. The CEO, as Bonatandi said, became too powerful. Yes, yet the CEO works for the commission. Yes, the secretariat works for the commission. It's a commission who is the employer, not the other way around. Now we see the CEO of the secretariat being suspended, and the commissioners cannot handle it.
I'll take a different tangent slightly, although complementing to what you've said. When you get an office, you move into an office, just let it be clear to you that you're going to be used and dumped. That should be very clear. You can put it the way you want, but your utility is to the extent that you make sense occupying that office. When that is completed, you go. When you assume an office, you must play by the rule to the letter. Do not please anybody. Please the law and fidelity of the Constitution, because you are there for a term and you will go. What happens if you play outside the prescribed rules? It means there's someone else, like he puts it, that calls the shot on you. And when you've completed the journey of that use and you are dumped, you lose face. That is what has happened to this commission.
You'd rather be dumped but still maintain
You see,
face.
you can leave an office, as people say, with your head high. That's what you should do. By the time you leave an office, you should be said, I'm leaving it with the head high, because you will leave anyway. But what happens is people bungle an election. They have been used shamelessly. They try and walk out trying to please us with the statements that they made yesterday. Shame on them. You know why? It's because this country would be unified today, and we didn't want handshakes. We wanted the law to be followed so that everybody and every Kenyan is contented with the election. I don't need handshakes. I know there's a law. I know there's a constitution. I do know that the electoral laws, why weren't they followed? Why then people had to lose their lives on account of an election, bungled by the same people who today want to tell us that they have followed and the sanctity of law, the rule of law is what they've played to. I mean, that cannot, as a lawyer, honestly, I see it bare. So this is what happens. They get into that office, first incompetently, as has been put, And then secondly is that they themselves want to please to those who have favored them into those offices.
Wow.
When they walk out, then they walk out disgracefully. I'm telling you, this is the end of this Chebukati commission. Either way you look at it, it is the end. And it's going to be disgraced and hounded out of office because it has served its purpose. And then I come to the second issue of the handshake. The handshake, one of the prominent issues by Raila Odinga was electoral reforms. And he was not going to walk out of that. Now, because he has a listening ear from the president, the first prominent issue that's going to be dealt with, so that then even his supporters see benefit of the handshake is electoral reforms. One of it, that is sticky and will be constant and will be persistent and will be consistent, is that IEBC must be disbanded. It is being disbanded.
This one is
by default
yes.
or by design, it is being disbanded.
Wow.
And Kenyans should not feel anything on these commissioners. They have failed us.
Wow. Your colleague Nelson Harvey says, I still hold the view that all IBC commissioners and the entire secretariat, that's Chebukati, Koning, Katha, Ezra Chiloba, amongst others, require a people's public trial at Uhuru Park. Their replacement alone will not be sufficient.
Correct.
Well, Fred, Harvey and my seniors, Porella, put it very clearly. Garbage in, garbage out. We did not expect anything better from these people. Number two.
Gentlemen, you're not being nice at all.
No, you only become nice if you follow the law.
Oh, we pretend.
The law is very clear. I've told you these people cannot be given any sympathy by anybody. Number two, when you compare the Isaac-led IEBC, those who are clever because there were constitutional and legal protection mechanisms put in place to protect them from being arrested and being charged. What now the lawyers are not telling you and we are salvating is that we are going to defend these guys for against criminal charges.
Because they'll definitely be taken to
They
court.
are going to be arraigned in court. And to the benefit, because we'll be smiling all the way to the bank. What does that mean to Kenyans who are going to replace? Because me, I'm saying already these guys are not there. There is no IBC. What are the Kenyans who are coming in going to do for this nation?
Wow.
My learned colleague has put it very clearly that be loyal to the law. You'll never be arraigned in a criminal court. Be loyal to the law at the interview stage and put it very clearly that if I'm appointed, let Mheshimiwa amend the law and say Omari should be giving people tenders without competitive bidding. But if the law is there on procurement, just that is what I will do.
Wow.
So in my own view, it is lessons for Kenyans who are ready to serve that you follow the law. If you don't follow the law, you will go out and you'll be taking a plea. Number three, another question that is coming. We have two critical agendas for the nation. The boundaries, review of the boundaries is coming next year.
And possible referendum.
And a possible referendum is coming next year. So we need a competent group of valuable Kenyans and valuable citizens to deal with this matter. Long are gone days when an entity called the IEBC is a cause of division of this nation. But also, I will never leave you guys, the political class. Can you go and read the IEBC Act? Why do these commissioners sit on a day-to-day basis? Other commissions, people sit on part-time. The secretariat runs the commission. Why do we set a commission to fail by giving the commission power to do procurement? You've seen what is happening here. The chairman was procuring. The vice chair was procuring. The CEO was procuring. Can we have it? The principles of corporate governance are very clear.
Okay.
The board is purely policy.
Yes.
But Atandi, are we seeing the fruits of that handshake? Is this what you intended? Is this the first thing that we should say, okay, fine, yeah, the handshake is finally working, IBC is out?
I think so. The handshake is working. And I agree with what my friend has just said. The handshake is working. But before I get there, I think it is not right to say that the law permits commissioners to engage in procurement I think if they do, then that is an illegality which
That's
should be
what I'm saying.
prosecuted, because as far as I'm concerned, their role is purely policy, and it remains so. They can give policy direction on procurement, but not to engage. And I think there's a statement by Oswago yesterday, where he's accusing the CEO of procuring illegally,
yes.
but also saying that the commissioners have been involved in interfering with procurement processes. That said, I also wanted to say that going forward, I think we need to check how are we going to constitute this commission going forward, because we wanted this commission to be independent. We said that we have a panel that is going to interview and recommend to the president. And again, we had a problem with that also, because this is one of the commissions that really needs to be independent. Having a situation where the president single-handedly appoints commissioners again was a mistake, because look at the chairman of Judicial Service Commission. You know, the president does not interfere. Once the person has been identified, that person is automatically appointed. So we had a situation where the president was sitting down and looking at the recommended list and choosing, and that's why he was able to choose the likes of Chebukati, you know, ignoring the people who actually deserve to sit in the commission. So going forward, I think what we are recommending is that we must take this process back to political parties, and I'm not fearful to say that we want to have a commission. Next commission must be constituted by political parties. Let each party nominate their commissioners, so that we have what we will call an independent. Because again, we have also realized that I think the caliber or the biological our biology does not allow us to be independent. And we were having this discussion, and we were saying that we have laws. Yes, we have laws. We recruit people whom then we put them in positions, and they are unable to effectively decide their mandate because of the bigger issue which we will go into. What we said yesterday, the conversation we had about why we think that the structure of government needs to be changed is because of what I call a negative ethnicity.
Okay.
Yeah, because negative ethnicity, by the way, is actually the crisis that Kenya is facing.
Okay.
Because of negative ethnicity, corruption thrives. Negative ethnicity, we have people, you know, this tribal politics thrives because of this situation. And for us to address negative ethnicity, we think that we must have a system of government that is inclusive. Okay. So that people, you stand for your own, you don't stand
Let's
for your
have now
community.
that conversation. There are two issues here standing out. The reconstitution of IEBC, because we agree this one is done.
It's over.
This one is done. We have to think of a new IEBC. And
Massively.
even if... Yes.
Massively.
Okay. And of course, we have to think about that, the possibility of a referendum to change the structure of government, which will need an IEBC either way. Yes, IEBC has to be in place. So these two processes, one is very political, but now the suggestion is that even the reconstitution of IEBC should take that route, that it should be the political parties to determine who sits on the IEBC. Do you think that's a route we should take?
I think that what was key for the IPPG narrative, well, let me put it this way. I do know that there are men and women out there who will serve to the fidelity of law. That's all. You know, I think a Kenyan should just know this. It is about the law. Either it is legal or illegal. Period. You don't have to do much. Am I permitted in law to do this? No, I'm not. I'm not doing it. I mean, you can shoot me. You'll be shot anyway if you do it. So don't do it. Simply, so the confines of the law should be the driving force of anybody in public service. Not because, you know, some even pre-made something. What will the president want in this? What would my boss want in this? Like you are trying to please someone. That is very wrong. You treat Miguna in a certain way because you think that this is how the state would want. No, there's a law. Simple. Just follow the law. What has the order of the court told you to do? Just execute it, because anyway you have a record of the order of the court. But you see, what you do is go and disobey a court order on account of trying to please someone else. That is wrong.
Without even
point is
order.
The fidelity of law is what will sustain anybody in a public office. Leave the private sector. That will be dealt with separately. So how do we then reconstitute the IEBC? I do think that the laws that we have are sufficient. I know negative ethnicity is a big problem. But when you get into an office, remembering that you need to serve negative ethnicity becomes a problem. You just need to serve the law as is, not anything else. But most importantly is, if we fix the executive, we probably have fixed 60% of the problems we have today in our account of ethnicity. And this is what we've always said. When we had the position of the Prime Minister, it served a purpose then. Now, when the debate, the reformist debate we had towards referendum, the issue came as to whether we should have the position of Prime Minister or not. Now, we are serving a very unique environment. Yes, we have many examples of constitution in the world, but why we are serving a very unique environment in Kenya is because we have institutionalized ethnicity.
Exactly.
Having done so, we have laid a bed, we must sleep on it. And this is what I propose, that because of the fact that we vote tribally, there's a lot of ethnic predilections in our election. This is what we do, that we need then to accommodate that ethnicity so that we confine it to work for us.
Institutionalize it.
Yes, and we have anyway, because we have said one ethnic group cannot dominate
even in selection of IEBC
yes,
commissioners.
we've done that. We will say, whether we like it or not, if we put Luyas alone, we're going to say, why are they Luyas? Why are they Kikuyus alone? Whether we like it or not. So because we're living that reality, let's deal with it. Wow. And in dealing with it, we have to expand the executive, meaning that the comfort we would have had now is that if a person comes second in a presidential election, like Raila did, or supposedly did, then he will be the prime minister.
Wow. Don't you think we're going down a very slippery path?
Let me tell you, Fred, you have put it very clearly. I'm a worried man. And worried in the sense that Kenyans are not reading what is happening at the IEBC. A handshake came. My good friend here, Mheshimiwa, said they want the political class to appoint the IEBC commissioners. What is their take? With a view of actualizing the handshake by creating positions, constitutional provisions, positions either of a prime minister on the others. What has happened at the IEBC is not by accident. It's a master plan of people of great wars political strategy to derail the handshake from maturity. Today, the IEBC is not existing. It cannot conduct a referendum to create what they are aspiring. The process of reconstituting the IEBC is going to be messy. One of the politicians said the divorce is going to be noisy. This thing is going to court. We are likely to have a limbo for 3-4 years before we have commissioners in place. What does that mean? The handshake cannot see the day.
No referendum.
No referendum. No those positions that people have been created. So the question I'm looking at is the great strategist who has pulled a very fast one. Without them knowing that, okay, you can create handshakes, but I can pull what that can affect that handshake coming into fruition. At whose cost?
Wow.
The Kenyans' cost. At whose peril? The taxpayers' peril. At whose suffering? The Kenyan suffering. So in my own view, after the suckers of the elections, where there was a lot of tension and a lot of tentacles, we have now plunged ourselves into another serious problem if it is not handled by great strategists and great thinkers on how to deal with this matter. The IEBC is a serious cog in creations of positions. The positions my friends are reservating for are public positions that can only come to the reality through a political process.
Yes, Bonatandi, you started a discussion on Sunday, and it was touted to be a major announcement when youthful MPs went to the church and talked about now this push for referendum to restructure the government, and it looked like that was going to be the main discussion politically going forward. But you must admit that the fact that now we no longer have an IEBC, everyone will now focus on reconstitution of IEBC. Discussions about the referendum will have to be put back on the shelf and wait a bit.
First of all, let me say that I disagree with him. We were not going to engage with this IEBC because you remember on the 10th of October, we did not participate in the repeat presidential elections because we did not trust this IEBC. So we were actually not going to engage them, whether in a referendum, whether in boundaries review and etc. So the first thing that we were always going to do was to see how we could have a new independent IEBC. And this is not just going to be about filling those positions, it's about looking at the structure of IEBC, reconstituting the secretariat and etc. And I think this was really going to be the first thing that we do before we engage Kenyans in any electoral process. That is one. So to that extent, I disagree with the fact that this exit of the commissioners is going to derail the plans for the handshake. After all, we have sufficient goodwill in Parliament right now. If maybe, because we know the forces against handshake, we know the forces for and against handshake. The forces for handshake, our numbers are legitimately okay. So if we are going to push for reforms in Parliament, this will be done pretty fast. Because again, what we have said is that
because that's the other issue of concern, the time.
We do not want these debates about structure of government and constitution of IEBC to get to us up to 2020. We need to do them in the shortest time possible. That is one. So to that extent, I think we are on the right course. And if IEBC is falling by itself, that is really something that we must be happy about. Two, we commenced this discussion yesterday because on Sunday because we were reacting to forces against the handshake. In the forces against the handshake as basically people who have been thriving on tribal politics. You know, the first Jubilee government of 2013 and this one basically are tribal outfits. It is a government that is run by two tribes, and that's why they are unable to fight corruption. They are unable to strengthen the institutions of governance because the people in those positions are appointed on tribal basis and they are appointed to serve those tribal interests. So these forces that have been surviving because of tribalism and ethnic politics are obviously going up against unity of purpose and against the reforms we are proposing. For us, fortunately, is that the President of the Republic of Kenya is leaving, so he has to leave a legacy. And I think that's the positive side. So we are going to take advantage of the fact that the President needs to leave a legacy, and I think he's not going to listen to these noises about having to leave a good legacy. So we have said that in order to address the fundamental question of negative ethnicity, then we must constitute the government so that the structure of government reflects our diversity, our regionalism, our gender equations, issues to do with the youth and our tribes, so that we have a government that reflects basically our society. Okay. And that we must do whether somebody thinks that we are creating position for somebody. We are not creating any position for anybody. We just want an all-inclusive government, so that when you are corrupt today, then you are not corrupt on behalf of your community. You are corrupt on behalf of yourself, and you will not go back to your community to say that, you know, I've been prosecuted because of the role I'm playing on behalf of my community.
Very
and
interesting.
Some of these people who are corrupt are saying that, you know, we need to steal money so that we can go and defend this power. We don't want to give anybody a leeway to defend the power on behalf of their tribe. And that's the basis for which we are saying we need to reconstitute the structure of government. So
now, those are the two biggest discussions, of course: the push towards reconstitution of government, changing the structure of government to create more positions at the top, and now we have a new conversation about reconstituting the IEBC, because we agree this one has fallen and it's just a matter of time.